A blockbuster release of millions of financial documents has European and Asian leaders running for political cover, and some even trying to hold off calls for their removal. The so-called Panama Papers paint a picture of widespread corruption and tax evasion by wealthy and famous people from a number of countries.
Associates of Mr. Putin ran a clandestine network operated by Putin associates that has shuffled at least $2 billion through banks and offshore companies.
These Russian oligarchs are spending billions buying up properties in Europe and the U.S., and they go to incredible lengths to hide it.
Several top officials of soccer's world governing body were arrested in a massive bribery scandal. U.S. prosecutors say briefcases full of cash decided media and marketing rights, even the site of the World Cup.
When we look at the threats to that rule of law world, whether it is that we will be the victims of crime, of cyber attack, of intellectual property theft, of terrorism, all of those hazards emerge from the territories that are controlled by the great bands of robbers.
Hello and welcome to Making a Killing, a new podcast on how corruption is reshaping global politics. I'm Nate Sibley, a research fellow at Hudson Institute in Washington, D.C. And for the past 5 years, I've worked on a project called the Kleptocracy Initiative, studying the relationship between corruption and authoritarianism. Kleptocracy literally means rule by thieves. And in this series, we'll examine how it exploded in the aftermath of the Cold War, as political leaders siphoned trillions of dollars out of the world's poorest countries into offshore tax havens and financial centres like London and New York. We'll explore how corruption continues to fuel some of the most deadly security threats facing the world today, from the battlefields of Afghanistan and Iraq to nuclear proliferation, terrorist networks, drug trafficking, and other organised crime. And we'll find out how dangerous authoritarian leaders increasingly use corruption as a tool of statecraft to enrich themselves and their families, to maintain their grip on power, and to project malign influence beyond their borders. But above all, I'll be searching for solutions that can help the United States and other democracies to start fighting back. Scarcely a day goes by now without American politics being further tainted by scandals involving dubious foreign entanglements. That's no coincidence. It's happening because the longer we refuse to look squarely at the problem of corruption, the more corrupt we start to look ourselves. To understand how that may finally be changing, I'll be keeping you abreast of all the latest developments, as well as introducing you to leading experts and top government officials from the front line of America's fight against dirty money. The 20th century was defined by what are now familiar struggles between democracy and dictatorship, capitalism and communism. But in the hyper-connected 21st century, the threat posed by corrupt authoritarian regimes isn't nearly so clear-cut. So I hope you'll join me on this journey into the darker corners of the global economy, as we explore how kleptocrats, and those in the West who enable them, are quite literally making a killing.